Hello everyone, welcome back to Crochet State of Mind. In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to crochet this beautiful red block stitch cardigan. As the name implies, this cardigan is worked primarily using the block stitch. So let's go ahead and get started with our materials. For this project, I used 4.5 skeins of the loops and threads from Michael Yarn. This is their Impeccable brand. This is a 100% acrylic yarn. It's a medium 4-weight yarn. This color is the color Claret or Bordeaux. The recommended hook size is a 5mm hook. However, I'll be using a 6mm crochet furls hook. Additional materials include a measuring tape, as this cardigan is made to measure, stitch markers, a darning needle, and a pair of scissors. So let's go ahead and get started. So before we get started, I just want to use this cutout of a cardigan to show you how this cardigan is going to be constructed. It is worked in one piece flat in rows, working the length of the cardigan, working our way up. So we're going to start the front panel, back panel, front panel, all worked in one piece. When that main body is done, we're going to fold the panels like so. And at the top, we're going to seam the shoulders closed. And that's going to leave us some armholes that we're going to work in the round to add the sleeves. And so once your cardigan is completed, it will look something like this. Remember, the sleeves are added at the ends, worked in the round, okay? Now, I have been seeing your comments about how to make this cardigan bigger or smaller. So if you stick to the end of this video, I will talk about how to do this, and I will use a cutout to demonstrate how to make this smaller or bigger. So we're going to start our first front panel with a foundation row that is a multiple of 3 plus 1. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1. So row 1 will be a foundation double crochet row of 91 stitches. So 90 plus 1 is a multiple of 3 plus 1. So to do a foundation double crochet, chain 2, then yarn over, and insert your hook in the very first chain underneath both loops. Yarn over, pull through, you've got 3 loops remaining. Yarn over, pull through, you've got 3. Yarn over, pull through, you've got 2 loops remaining, and yarn over, pull through both. That is your first foundation double crochet stitch. I'll be using stitch markers throughout to indicate the beginning and end of the row, or the first stitch of the row. Then insert your hook again after yarn over, pull through, you've got 3 loops remaining, yarn over, pull through, you've got 3, yarn over, pull through, you've got 2, yarn over, pull through. Now, if this is too fast, I do have a video tutorial on how to create foundation double crochet stitches, so be sure to check that video out. So just go ahead and do 91 foundation double crochet stitches for this this foundation row. I'll do this off camera and I'll meet you at the end of row 1. All right, so we're at the end of row 1, which is our foundation double crochet row. And remember that this is a block stitch pattern, which is a 2-row repeat. So for row 2, which is going to be the first of the 2-row repeat, we're going to start this row 2 with not a turning chain, but 2 single crochets. So first you can insert a single crochet in that first stitch from the row below. Use a stitch marker to indicate that this is the first stitch of the row. And then insert your second single crochet, so single crochet number 2 in that very same stitch. So row 1 was foundation double crochet, row 2 is the first of the 2-row repeats. So then chain 2, skip 3 double crochet stitches. So don't count that first one, but start it with this one. 1, 2, 3, and in between the posts. So this does not count. 1, 2, 3. In between these posts, you'll put a single crochet stitch. Then chain 2, skip 3 again. 1, 2, 3, and in between the third and the fourth, so right there, you're going to insert another single crochet. And then chain 2 and skip. So just repeat this until the end of the row. Okay? So skip 3, single crochet, chain 2, skip 3, so on and so forth. So we're at the end of row 2, and we're going to end the row with with 2 single crochets in the last stitch. So we begin the row with 2 single crochets. We're going to end with 2 single crochets, and this is where the stitch markers come in handy. So I'm going to insert that first single crochet in the top of the stitch below, and then again in that same stitch I'm going to insert the second single crochet, and that is the end of row 2, which is the beginning of the 2 row repeat. So this row 2 is what you'll be repeating um throughout the pattern, throughout the project. So for row 3, so just stretching this out, for row 3, no turning chain. Instead, we're going to do stacked single crochets, which are going to be the alternative to the chain 2. So single crochet, and in the left bar or left leg of your single crochet, so this one right here, you're going to insert another single crochet, and that creates that stacked single crochet, which is the alternative to the chain 2. This is to keep the edges straight and smooth. Right. So now you're going to insert 3 double crochets in the chain 2 space that you created in the row below. So you see these holes? These are the chain 2 spaces from the previous row. So for row 3, insert 3 double crochets. So this is your first double crochet, second double crochet, and third double crochet. And that is a block. And that's why this pattern is called a block stitch. So in this next chain 2, you do the same thing. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet stitches, and your third double crochet stitch. Okay? And there you go. You're starting to create the blocks. So we're at the end. We're coming to the end of the row. And so we have one more chain 2 space right here. We're going to insert our last 3 double crochets, so essentially a cluster of 3 double crochets, like so. And then we're going to end the row with 1 double crochet in the last stitch. So you would begin the row with 1 double crochet stitch, which was the alternative turning chain, the stacked single crochet, which counted as a double crochet. Now we're ending the row with another double crochet stitch. And so these 2 rows are what you're going to repeat throughout the main body of this cardigan and the sleeves as well. So here you have it. Row 1 was a foundation double crochet. Row 2 and row 3 are your 2 row repeat. Okay, so the block stitch will be a repeat of rows 2 and 3, and we're going to do that for 19 rows. So I will see you at the end of the first front panel. Okay, so again, continue with rows 2 and 3 or your 2 row repeat. Keep doing that for 19 rows until the end. All right, so our first front panel is completed, and this is what it looks like. Our next step now is going to measure the armhole depth. So we just finished this front panel, that's done. And now we need to work on this null row. Some others call it a base row. It's just a row that helps separate the front panel from the back panel, and then again later the back panel from the front panel. So what we're going to do next is mark our armholes, okay? So to get that, we need to measure our armhole depth right here. This area right here is what we need to measure. So based on my measurements, that's 8 inches. So the armhole depth is 8 inches for my measurements. So I'm going to mark that with a stitch marker. So first, let's identify our 8 inches, where that falls right here. I'm going to insert a stitch marker. And so that stitch marker is going to let me know that this right here is the bottom of the armhole depth, okay, or the bottom of the armhole. And now I'm going to count how many stitches is equivalent to 8 inches. And that number is very important. We're going to save that for the next armhole sleeve. So that's 28 stitches for the armholes. And again, you want to remember that for the next one. So now for our null row, we're going to turn our work and we're going to do extended single crochet stitches. So to do that, insert your hook, no turning chain, and do a chain 1 and then complete the stitch. Okay, and now we're going to insert a stitch marker to indicate that this is our first extended single crochet of the row. So again, to do extended single crochet, insert your hook, pull up a loop, that's a chain 1, and then draw through both loops. So again, pull through, yarn over, pull through 1, pull through both. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, and then pull through both. So that's an extended single crochet, and just keep doing that until you get to this stitch marker right here. So we are close to where we marked the bottom of the armhole, and at this point we're going to chain a chain of 28. So just chain 28. So this is 1, and I'm using stitch marker to indicate that this is the first chain stitch of this row, and then 2, 3, and we're just going to keep doing this until we get to the end. We need 28 chain stitches. All right, and here we are with our 28 chains, and now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to start inserting double crochets for this first row of the back panel, which is a double crochet row. Now we're continuing our block stitch pattern, that 2-row repeat. We just use the null row to separate the front panel from the back panel and simultaneously create the armhole that we're going to eventually put the sleeves into. So this was our first double crochet stitch, which was the stack single crochet for this row. And now we're going to continue double crocheting along the row until we get to that point indicated by the stitch markers where we created the chain 28. I hope that makes sense. So I'm inserting another double crochet, and by the way, I'm inserting them in the back bump. You do not have to do that. That's just my preference. I find that it makes the bottom edges much neater. And so just do this, continue inserting double crochets until you get to here. All right, so we're just about close to that cutoff point where we split off and created that chain 28. And I'm going to remove that stitch marker. Remember that stitch marker indicated that this was the first chain for the 28 chains. So I'm going to insert a double crochet stitch, and now we're just going to merge and continue double crocheting along this row. All right, so this row is also the beginning of the back panel, and this is what we meant by this panel, this cardigan being worked entirely in one piece. And you'll notice that we have not cut our yarn so far. So this is the same yarn that we started with. And so here we are. You can see now how this is going to create the back panel. We're just going to keep going in rows. So we just did this right here. And now we're going to keep going down and keep going in rows until we have the back panel completed. Okay, so I'll see you at the end of the back panel. All right, our back panel is now completed, and this is what it looks like. Again, I love this stitch pattern, the block stitch. Once you get the hang of it, it's really easy. It's just a 2-row repeat, and once you have that down pat, you're good. So we just did this. We just did this, which is the back panel, and now we're going to start working on the null row for that second front panel, so that armhole which separates the back panel from the second front panel. So we're going to do this again. We're going to mark the armhole depth, which is 28 stitches. Remember, that's the number that we identified from the previous armhole. And so we're going to identify those 28 stitches, and we're going to put a stitch marker there to indicate that this is where we're going to start our armhole. And now we're going to continue with a null row, which is the extended single crochet. So again, no turning chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, you've got 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 1, you've got 2, yarn over, pull through both. And now use the stitch marker to indicate that this is the first stitch of this null row. And it's called a null row because you don't really count this row as you're creating a cardigan. It's just a row that separates the panels and also creates the armhole depth. So it does 2 things at once. And I just call it a null row. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it a row 0, but just understand what the purpose of this row is. So just keep crocheting along this null row until you get to this stitch marker here. So we're getting to the stitch marker. So let's do our final extended single crochet of this null row, and now we're going to begin the chain 28. Okay, so right here, this is where we're at. We're creating this armhole, which is also the beginning of the front panel. So chain 28, and I will mark this again like we did with the previous. So we're repeating what we did earlier when we were going from the front panel to the back panel. We're just doing the back panel now to the front panel. So just reverse. So continue along until you have 28 chain stitches. And now that we have 28 chain stitches, we're going to turn our work. And we're going to continue our 2-row repeat, okay? Until the front panel is completed. So you'll have a total of 19 rows for this second front panel, just as with the first front panel. So just real quick, showing you how we did it earlier. We're just repeating it, okay? So we're starting with a double crochet row, which will start with that alternative chain 2, which is a stacked single crochet. Mark it with the stitch marker, and then you're just going to keep double crocheting along the row, just as we did with the first front panel. Okay, so I'm going to do the rest of this off camera, and I will meet you at the end of the second front panel. All right, see you in a bit. All right, so our second front panel is completed, and here what it looks like. And once the entire body is done, this is what it looks like. Now we're going to start working on the bottom ribbing, okay? So the bottom ribbing is going to add some length to the cardigan, and it's going to consist of 8 rows, all right? So let's go ahead and get started with that bottom ribbing. So turn your work so this right here is what we're going to do now, right? So turn your cardigan, or what you have so far of your cardigan, so that it is upside down. And we're going to start row 1 of our bottom ribbing with a row of half double crochets, right? So first, yarn over like so, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, all right? And as always, use a stitch marker, so remember that this is the first half double crochet stitch of the row, and then keep inserting half double crochet stitches along this row, right? So I'll see you at the end. All right, so we are almost done with this first row of half double crochets for the ribbing. In that very last stitch, you want to insert about 2 to 3, and that'll be end of row 1. 2 to 3 half double crochets. This is so that your bottom ribbing is not too tight and it bunches up, right? You don't have to do this. This is more of a preference, but if you want your cardigan to look like mine, this is what I did. All right, so now we're going to turn our work, and then for row 2, we're going to do half double crochets in the 3rd loop. So this is what the stitch looks like. First, you need half double crochet stitches, which is what we did in that previous row. So what you want to do is you want to look at your stitches, right? So these are half double crochet. You've got the top loops, okay? And you've got, so here we're going to do a regular half double crochet, pardon. So regular half double crochet for the first and last half double crochet stitches of the row. And now for the next one, you want to look at your stitches and you want to go in that loop right here. So it's almost underneath the front loop. So if you look here, it looks like the front loop, but it's not. It's the one below the front loop. So right here. Okay, I hope you can kind of see. But essentially, you're just going to insert that in there and do half double crochets along the row. And this is the end of row 2, right? Now, what's cool about this half double crochet in the third loop is you get this ribbed look, this ribbed effect. Okay, and that's why I like using that half double crochet. It's a variation of the half double crochet. Instead of inserting under both loops, you insert it in the loop that's right below the front loop, right? So once you've done that, you're gonna keep doing half double crochets in the third loop for rows 3 through 5. So the first row is gonna be a regular half double crochet row, and then the second through the fifth rows are gonna be half double crochets in that third loop. All right, so now row 6 is what we're starting. So here's what these half double crochets look like. Really neat. I love this rib. There's another name for this. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's called the camel or the ridge stitch. But now we're gonna start row 6, which is gonna be a row of double crochet stitches. In this row, this double crochet row is gonna be the base row for what we call the front post and back post double crochet stitches, which you'll see in a few seconds. So again, we don't use turning chains for the main body of the cardigan, so we did the stack single crochet as the alternative to the chain 2. And now we're just going to keep going along the row with double crochet stitches as you would with any normal double crochet row. All right, so I'll see you at the end of row 6. All right, so we're at the end of row 6, and this was our row of double crochet stitches. We're going to turn our work, and we're going to start working on rows 7 and 8. So for row 7 and 8, we're going to do front post double crochets and back post double crochets alternating. So first, your stack single crochet, which counts as a double crochet stitch. Insert your stitch marker, and again, this counts as the first double crochet of the row. It's a stack single crochet. So for the front post double crochet, look at your double crochet stitches, right? So you can see these columns almost. Those are the posts. So you're gonna yarn over, insert your hook behind the post, and then yarn over, pull through. You've got 3 loops, yarn over, pull through. You've got 2, yarn over, pull through both. So it's a double crochet, but it's behind the post. So this one, you're going to put your hook behind it and then go in front of it and yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, right? So again, this is the post, yarn over, go behind the post and do a regular double crochet. But we call this a front post because the front is sticking out. This is a back post. And this is because the back of the post is sticking out the back. I hope this makes sense. So you're just going to keep doing this until the end of the row, like here. So this will be a front post. So for a front post, you're inserting your hook in the back. For a back post, you're going in the back, out the front, back and back. There are plenty of videos on YouTube on how to do the front post and back post. But for your final stitch of the row, it's going to be a regular double crochet, right? And that is the end of the ribbing row. Right, and so you're done with the ribbing for the main body of the cardigan, which was the back panel as well as the front panels, all worked in one piece. And now you can cut off your excess yarn, so cut your ends and go ahead and fasten off. And you're done with the main body of the cardigan. Next step is going to be joining the front panels to the back panels. So see you in a bit. So this is where we are. We are now going to join the front panels to the back panel. So this is the front panel, back panel here, and the other front panel. Now what we're going to do, we're going to fold our cardigan and start working on these shoulder seams right here. And I'll be using the whip stitch method. I'm not going to use a slip stitch or crochet. I'm just going to use a darning needle and some yarn, and I'll just join the front panel to the back panel, and I'll do that for both sides. So I'm going to speed this up a bit, and I'll see you once the panels are joined. Alright, so our first front panel has been joined with the back panel using the whip stitch method, and now we're going to cut our yarn, leave some to weave in at the end, and this is what it looks like. This is going to be woven in later on. And now we're just going to repeat what we just did with the first panel. We're going to do that with the second front panel. And now that our panels are joined, we can start working on the sleeve, which will be worked in the round. All right, so let's get started with round 1. So insert your hook, and we're going to do 52 double crochets, which is a multiple of 3 plus 1. Remember, this is a block stitch pattern. We do still need that multiple of 3 plus 1 even for the sleeve. So attach your yarn, and then insert your hook and start with your stacked single crochets. This is the only time we'll do a stacked single crochet in the round. To begin the sleeves for round 1, we're going to do stacked single crochet. Thereafter, it will just be a chain 2. All right, so now that we have our stacked single crochet, which counts as a double crochet, we're going to insert double crochet stitches in the stitches below. Now here, what you want to make sure that you have is a multiple of 3 plus 1. It doesn't really matter where you put your stitches, as long as you end up with a round of double crochet stitches that are equivalent to multiple of 3 plus 1. I hope that makes sense. All right, so we're at the end of round 1, and I want to show you how to join the round at the end of a round. So remove the stitch marker, insert your hook where the stitch marker used to be, and do a slip stitch, like so. Okay, this is how you join the round, and this first round is now completed, and we can start round 2. Turn your work, do not do a turning chain, and start with a single crochet. And insert your stitch marker to indicate that this is the first stitch of the round. And now, in that same stitch, you're going to insert a single crochet. So insert your hook, single crochet, and now chain 2. All right, and you're just continuing the block stitch pattern, right? The 2-row repeat, and you're going to keep doing this until you have a total of 14 rows of the block stitch pattern. And after those rows, we're going to work on the cuffs for the sleeves. Now that we're at the end of round 14, so we've completed 14 rounds of the block stitch pattern, we're going to start round 15, which is going to be single crochets 2 together. So to do that, after your slip stitch, which I just completed, we're going to do chain 1, insert your hook in that first stitch underneath both loops, do a single crochet, use a stitch marker to indicate that this is the first stitch, and now to do single crochet 2 together, you're essentially doing 1 single crochet using 2 single crochets. So put your hook underneath both loops of the next stitch, yarn over, but do not complete it. Insert your hook underneath the loops of the second single crochet, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So let's do that again. Underneath both loops of that next one, yarn over, pull through. Do not yarn over again, put it underneath the next one, and then yarn over, pull through 3 loops. So you should have 3 loops on your hook before completing the stitch, and that is how you do single crochet 2 together. So just keep doing this to the end of the round. So we're at the end of round 15 where we did the single crochet 2 together, and now we're closing the round with a slip stitch as usual. Turn your work and start round 16, which is going to be a double crochet round. And so here we are going to do a chain 2, and this chain 2 counts as the first double crochet of the round. And now we're just going to double crochet around this round. All right, this is normal double crochet round, nothing different, nothing unique. All right, so just keep doing this until the end of the round. This is a double crochet round. All right, so we're at the end of round 16. We're going to join the rounds like we normally would. Remember that stitch marker is where you're going to insert your hook to create the slip stitch and close that round. So insert your hook. And you may run into some issues getting your hook in there, and that's normal. That chain 2 tightens up as you continue with your stitches around the round. So I just completed slip stitch, and sorry I'm a little out of the camera angle. Now turn your work, and for the next rounds, so round 17 and 18, we're going to do front post double crochet and back post double crochet alternating, just as we did with the bottom ribbing for the main body of the cardigan, right? So to demonstrate again, you're going to insert your hook behind the post, and that's for the front post. Okay, for the back post, you're going to insert your hook behind, through the front and back, and then pull through. All right. I apologize if I'm going too fast. I will make a video in the future on how to do the front post, back post double crochet, but I just want to show you again, starting with the back post. I made a mistake and started with the front post. I should have started with the back post. And this is a front post. This is a back post. It will take some getting used to. There is a learning curve with doing this stitch, but this is a type of way of adding ribbing if you don't want to do slip stitches. All right, our first sleeve is now completed, and this is what it looks like. So those front post, back post alternating stitches created this almost ribbed effect. So this is what we have. Now we're working on our second sleeve, and we're just going to repeat what we did with the first sleeve. See you at the end of the second sleeve. All right, so we've completed both sleeves, and our cardigan is almost done. The last thing we need to do, obviously the last thing is weaving the ends, but the second to last thing, I should say, is adding a border, okay? And this border is going to go around the neckline. It's going to be 2 rows of front posts and back post double crochets alternating. So just as we did with the bottom ribbing and the sleeve cuffs, we're going to repeat that around. And remember, you're starting with the regular double crochet row, and then the next rows are going to be front post, back post, okay? And then you'll be done. So here's the final product. I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you have any questions, please free to leave them in the comments below. Now stay tuned, because I do want to go over how to make this cardigan longer or shorter or wider or thinner depending on your own body measurements. So using the cutout, if you want to make it longer, add more chain stitches to your foundation row, okay? If you want to make it wider, depending on your size, then you would add more rows. It's as simple as that. Add more rows to the front, to the back, and to the other front panel. That will make the cardigan wider. For the sleeves, same concept. To make the sleeves longer, just add more stitches. To make them wider or fuller, add more rows. And that is it. So thank you very much for watching and see you in the next video. Bye bye.